fast forwarding a little bit, now we're seeing the car starting to make some power. 377 peak, 372 on the pull before. I don't use a standard numbering convention versus the dyno files because I always just start every time the car goes on the dyno. So the run files that you'll see in the data logs aren't going to match here, but that is inconsequential since the data is the data. But as you can see, what we've done is we've continued to feed more of the small turbo, the 2860N. We've started bringing up the bigger GT38. And ultimately, we're starting to make some decent power. It still spools decent. I mean, it's making good torque by 4,000. It's really in the whip by 3,200 to 3,500. There is more in this if we weren't octane limited, because this is 100% pump gas. At this point, we haven't put any race gas in just to verify where the tune was. It's not E85. It's not meth injected. It was formerly, but we, for sake of simplicity, took that out just to get this a little bit more friendly street driver. But when we switch to the data logs, I put some more data in here so we can kind of see what's going on. We have timing. We have the intake air temp. This is measured prior to the throttle body. It was cold in the dyno. The intercooler is working very, very effectively. 43 degree air going in. 3,600 RPM. We are making 17.5 pounds manifold. At this point, EMAP in the manifold is decent. We're under 1-to-1. We're 14.9 psi. Now, remember, this turbo kit does not have a gate on the manifold. It only has one at the end of the interstage pipe, which is not where I would put it. I would put it on the manifold, just like every other kit, and specifically to keep the back pressure away. That wasn't done here. That's fine. This is what we got. Now, when we look at a little bit higher up in the power, this is the 372. We're going to see 20.4 psi peak. Really was difficult to get it over this number. I had to really feed some duty cycle into it. We have 33.7 pounds of back pressure in the manifold. The drive pressure here is 26.9, so that's the interstage pressure. This is what we are logging from the GT38 into the 28. This is not supposed to be an absolute sensor. I've gone over the scaling several times. I'm trying to figure out how this number is what it is. It's currently baffling me because when you come over here, you see it drops to 0. Anyway, so we have some really hot air that's not very dense and supposedly 31 pounds of it, but I think that data might be suspect. 16 degrees, fairly low for RB in my experience. They seem to usually like a little bit more power. I'm not revving it very high because, as you saw in the dyno sheet, I think we're starting to run into valve spring issues up here because of the back pressure. And who knows how old this is. This notch right here where it drops and then comes back up, that's usually indicative of the beginning of valve spring problems. So I didn't really want to push it. So we left it lower revs since that part of this was unknown. And then I didn't really go too much higher boost on pump gas. Like I said, we did verify on race gas. I gave it the next 2 degrees of timing that I would normally do. And it did make more power. It really smoothed the power band up. We'll get to that in a second, though. Here's the 377 pole. We can see that it peaked out 25.5, 26, and then out the top, actually a little bit less, 19.2, but it managed to make decent power. So intake air temp was a little hotter. In the end, kind of still doing what it was doing. And then as we continue, we're going to get to the race gas, and we'll bring that one up completely separate here. But when we look at what it did, I put in 5 gallons just to see. Basically the same 26 pound spike, 25.5 pound spike. Timing drops off. And then now we got lots of manifold pressure. 38.8, peaked out at 39. So the EMAP is starting to get crazy. It does have 18 degrees max timing, 49 degree intake air temp. And then when we go to the last run, oh, I got the wrong one here. Let's do this. We'll start over. 2 degrees of timing. It really liked it basically everywhere as I accidentally zoom. And it just filled in all the spots. Keep it doing the zoom. It filled in all the differences and continued to make more power. Made 404 out the top. And we can kind of see that trend there is still there. And I'm not going to say it's worse, but it definitely isn't any better with more exhaust back pressure. So we left that one as is. Now what we're going to do is we're going to switch to the Elite, and I'm going to kind of show you how I set the table up to control the boost control, and maybe it'll give you some ideas if you're going to do a gas compound. To me, this is all new. It's kind of exciting. I want to build one of my own. I think that's probably what's going to end up with the Cedric down the road, whether it's the VG30 or I put a Honda V6 in it or something. It's going to be a compound car, so I have something to test myself. Probably a Honda motor, since I know those really well, and I know what timing and boost I can get away with on pump gas. So let's switch to the Haltech now. One thing that I really like about how Haltech does their data logging is their replay feature. You can do this in an AM Infinity as well. I'm sure you can do this in a Motec, but you can have the graph, you can have your gauges, and you can do all of this where it has the table tracing. So you can kind of see what I have here. This is manifold pressure on this side, and then because I just Mr. Funny Guy, I'm calling that small boy for the 2860, and then this is going to be back pressure, and that's the interstage pressure is what I'm using for the axis. You could use the actual EMAP as well if you wanted. This was just kind of my solution. Again, I'm not sure if there's a wrong way, right way, but you can see what I did. Big spike down here to get things moving. So we'll back up a little bit. 50% duty cycle on the 2860 to get it to jump up. We're 11 pounds at 2916, so it's starting to make good torque. And when we come back out here and we look at basically 3,000 RPM, that was getting us 220 foot-pounds, let's say. 120 horse, not much because it's low RPM, but it's starting to get it exciting. The next point we're going to look at here is 4,000. So when we go back to the map, what you'll see is as this comes up, let's get to 4,000 real fast. And I did clean this up. It was a little bit leaner than I would normally like. 4,000 RPM, 23.3. And you can kind of see that it's going to ride this line, because this ends up how I established the boost target. I really didn't want too much past 23. It spiked past and then leveled out, but you can kind of see it's going to run this line here. Coolant temp on most Nissans stays really cold. I think it's a thermostat problem in a lot of these cars, but anyway, it's 148 degrees. It does warm up as we go. So we peak out, we get a 24 there for a second, and just kind of follow. Now you can see the air fuels where we wanted, 1150s. Pretty good on the O2 feedback. Everything's working good. And it really stays in that 40 column pretty well. So good trick for maintaining your boost if you're going to do compounds, at least what I came up with. Your results may vary. And then we're 21 there, 150 degrees. So like I said, it stays pretty cold. But it shows one control strategy. And then for the main gate, that's just standard open loop. And again, more or less, it's the same thing. I'm trying to get it to hold boost as it comes up. So you can see I have increasing values versus RPM to get some creep. Where I don't want it to run, tapers off fast, so really if it overshot, it should drop. And then that one works RPM versus manifold pressure, like what you'd expect. You could do it closed loop if you want. Run the PIDs. Haltech has those where they will work if you set them up. Obviously, I use the Infinity a lot because I have those PIDs all figured out. Haltech uses slightly different number convention, but that's okay. It will work just as good if you spend the time to set it up. Maybe we'll do that in a future episode. So, kind of covers some of what I learned in compounds on this particular car. This is Nick's car. He has brought us a couple Skylines. He has an R34 that we're going to do that's coming up. That'll be a feature all by itself. But it's been a lot of fun doing something different. Something you think is mostly diesel oriented, but works on gas engines. Can't wait to do a high octane version where I can run all the boost and really get a better feel. Maybe drive by wire. You know, have some extra control strategies and build a turbo kit where the wastegate is on the manifold versus the interstage pipe. You always have one that diverts around from the manifold to that interstage pipe around the little turbo to help keep it from going too crazy. But other ways to set up the main boost control as well. So if this is content that you like, please consider pressing the like button. If it's something that you think is worth subscribing to, please consider doing that. If you want to share it with a friend who likes tech, who likes cars, also please consider doing that. It helps us out on the channel. And if you want notified as new content is added, all you got to do is hit the bell icon, and YouTube will take care of that on its own. I hope this finds you all doing well. Enjoy your vacation time that you probably got coming up, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.